these older players, especially in Korea, have become more and more popular. Oh, see, there's some Juanito support right there. Some special support. Fantasy countering the Juanito support. No, but there's been a growing popularity with some of these players that are older and seeing if they can still compete, because there was this whole, if I could be totally candid here, a bunch of nonsense where people were saying that the older players would not be able to compete with younger players. This is all pre-StarCraft 2.
Yeah.
And it seems like that was a lot of players who were older who were not practicing or not in shape, blaming their age for not being able to compete.
Like their hands slowed down.
My hands slowed down. I'm like, what does that even mean? Like, what are you even trying to say here? Your hands slow down. What? How?
There's some validity to it, but to be honest, it's actually just the work ethic.
It's world-class pianists in their 50s.
Yeah.
No regret. Playing songs very fast. Your hands, if you keep them in shape, will not slow down.
Yeah, like the only thing that's valid about the point that they're not good anymore is the fact that you get older, things become more important to you that aren't StarCraft. I mean,
or you have kids, or
yeah, like your life moves on, and eventually it's not valid to play 14 hours a day every day.
Well, also, that whole thing started, I believe, specifically with an interview, I think, with Slayer's Boxer. And you have to remember that the very, very early StarCraft days, it was a little bit less about mechanical play, and people just sort of had figured these exploits out.
Right.
Like, oh, I'm going to drop tanks here and siege them up on your high ground and hit you there, or I got all these pretty crafty strategies, and then eventually this era of macro players came in.
Players that are actually just like really good.
They're just monsters that make a bunch of stuff and also play strategically, and that zoned out a lot of the very, very, like the first generation of RTS players.
The same thing happened in StarCraft 2, actually.
Yeah.
When you look at the very first really good, besides MVP, because MVP was like...
Well, MVP was also a StarCraft 1 god that kind of showed up.
Yeah.
And really had a pretty good handle on how the whole game was operating.
Yeah, there were a lot of players that in the beginning were just like there, like they played, but they were really good at strategies and stuff. And then once all the really good macro players came in and were able to do that as well, like all those players faded away. And then we got people like Stefano, people like Huck, people like Naniwa, or whoever. Right.
People that weren't just using gimmicks.
Yeah.
It wasn't like I just keep, making this specific unit at this time and I'm onto something, but nobody's figured this out. Eventually, the players that know how to get... Usually you see an RTS mature when everybody figures out how to quickly take their first base without dying basic stuff.
And once you figure out the meta with not dying, I think that's when the game matures to the point where good players can start proving themselves.
If you go back to the very, very, very first season of GSL, it's like, so bad. It's just
love watching
people powering on one
bases.
Or, each person powering on one base, and then one guy abruptly rushes the other guy and loses, and it's like, you shouldn't do that if you're both on one base.
It's just funny to watch like how people thought the game should be played.
And these were like really good players doing it too.
The funny thing is too, it's influenced by StarCraft 1, right?
Yeah.
So like StarCraft 2 and StarCraft 1 are just so economically different, but people played them like they were the same.
Actually, I would actually say at the start people played them just like StarCraft 1 had started, not like how StarCraft 1 was played when StarCraft 2 came out, because there was a lot of really counterintuitive. We're talking like good players like Jelizerg or Nada even kind of showing up, and they're not really. But at the same time, I almost don't blame them.
No,
because it's like they don't have all the answers either. Artosis has talked about this as well, the way that RTS games kind of organically pan out. Everybody starts rushing, and then there's an eventuality into getting an expansion up. And then you'll also see, of course, people that start to figure out really intense ways to exploit the player that tries to expand. That's why we see some cheeses work. But yeah, usually it's people powering up on one base and making a bunch of units and trying to not die to a rush and then slowly take a base. So